Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Identity Insights by Indicio. Today, I'm joined by Lynn Bendixsen, Director of Network Operations, and James Schulte, the VP of Business Development here at Indicio. And we're here to discuss a deep dive into the different networks that Indicio has to offer. So thank you so much for both agreeing to join me here today. Could one of you please start us off with a quick explanation of what networks are currently available?
Sure. Yeah, happy to do so. So at Indicio, we offer three publicly available networks. We have our public test net, we have a demo net, and we also have a main net. We also offer private temp net services for organizations that need a network temporarily for testing or for their own testing purposes or development purposes. Our goal at Indicio is to make it as easy as possible to get started using verifiable credentials. And one of the ways of doing that is by providing those network services so organizations don't have to deal with the base layer in the trust triangle, sometimes called the verifiable data registry, in this case, a blockchain network.
So why would I want to use any of these networks over each other, right? You mentioned testnet, demonet, private networks. Could you give me a use case example for each of those?
Yeah, I can take this one. The test net is kind of the network that we usually have people start with. This is for digging in and trying things out. You can do whatever you'd like to with this one. We make it open and free to do anything indie related with it, but whatever you put on there is not necessarily guaranteed to be there for forever. It's has a schedule that it should be reset quarterly, and if someone puts something on there that shouldn't be on there, we might need to reset it at any time as well. So the demo net, it's a lot like the test net, but it's a little more stable. It's scheduled to be reset yearly or as needed again whenever somebody writes unacceptable content. And then you want to use this for demos and other things. Once you've used the test net to get started and tried things out a little bit, maybe you're ready to demo to your clients and customers, something a little more stable, and kind of use that as a preparation ground for moving to our main net, which is our production network. The main net is never scheduled for reset. It's our most stable network, and you can run any of your production class use cases on that one. Then a temp net is something that we set up for you personally, and you can use it to run load testing or private tests of any sort, or some of the things James mentioned. You can also use it as a private network for your own personal production network if you need something like that. It just depends on your use case, and what we do is charge a variable rate for that sort of thing, depending on whatever you need for that.
Okay. Would you mind going into that private temp net? Like, if you're using it for a private network, is it super temporary? Can it be set up for more long-term stuff? Can you tell me about the private aspect of that a little bit more?
A private network is so that only you and people that you approve of can have access to it and use it. And you can use it for whatever you want. It can be a production level thing in a more permanent basis if that's what you need it for. So we call it a temp net, but that's just kind of the class of networks. It kind of means a private network that you can use for whatever purpose. And it's just a Hyperledger Indie identity network that you can use for whatever you need to use an identity network for.
Okay, but only you have access. Sounds good. So you did mention pricing a little bit there. Could you go into the cost of using each of these networks? Is there a cost per person? Is it per organization? How does that break down?
Yeah, I can take this one. So our pricing is simple and straightforward. Our test net and our demo net are completely free to use. So if an organization wants to get started today, no payment necessary. You can hop on, start building. And on our website, on our self-serve portal, you can get your DID and ver key and go ahead and get going. Pretty straightforward. Our main net, because it is a production level network, that one does have a cost. That one is a lump sum fee for the year. There's not a varying price structure. We like to make it as clear cut as possible. So it's 5,000 USD per year for an organization. for unlimited rights to the network. So that is, credential definitions. That's anchoring a DID to the ledger, any revocations that need to be made, unlimited transactions of any kind to the network. Keep in mind, you could do one network right and issue millions of credentials based off of that right to the ledger. So it's very affordable. It makes it easy for accounting departments to factor in the cost of using the network. There are discounts available for node operators or organizations who volunteer to operate a node on any of our networks. So if you have any questions about pricing, or if you have a particular use of the network that you're looking into, where you have some questions, feel free to reach out to us about that. We can work with you.
All right, awesome. Seems pretty straightforward there. So, right, why would you want to use the network? Can you go into some of like the projects, maybe without naming names, obviously, but what are some of the projects that are being built using the network?
Yeah, so there's some really cool ones out there right now. And a lot of the organizations we work with are at different stages of their projects. So either from the incubation testing phase all the way to production phase, with credentials out in the wild being used every day for real business purposes. One of my personal favorite use cases at the moment is an organization using the network called Bullet ID. They're using verifiable credentials for the tracking of munitions to help reduce the amount of illegal weapons proliferation, making it possible for governments and for law enforcement to keep track of munition inventory to keep communities safer. It makes it possible to identify where munitions are coming from, where they've been transferred to, the manufacturer, etc. It's just a very interesting use case, and I think one that has a lot of value for society as a whole. But an application of this technology beyond just a human identity aspect to an actual item or object that uses verifiable credentials. So there's a lot of really interesting implications from that. We have organizations using the network for issuing and verifying education credentials to prove educational history. So whether that's a diploma issued by a university or some sort of accreditation or certification from a governing body, and an individual needs to prove that they truly did the work to achieve that accreditation. We have an organization using the network to issue metaverse credentials, or credentials to prove identity or age or any sort of requirement in order to enter a metaverse situation. That gets interesting when you factor in all of the different metaverse situations and cross metaverse use cases where identity verification is important, and especially allowing for the user to have control over their own identity and have the decision-making ability to decide what information to share and where. Obviously, there's the standard use cases. I shouldn't say standard, but because they're still exciting. But with healthcare, for example, being able to prove health status, organizations are using network to issue health credentials. Obviously during the pandemic, being used for, and still being used for, this use case of proof of health status, proof of COVID-19 vaccination, or COVID testing, for example. Network is also being used for age verification, travel, as well as financial use cases as well, particularly for KYC for banking customers and for credit union customers. So that's just a list of some of the recent use cases, and there's a lot more. There's a growing pipeline of use cases in the works that we're excited to talk about publicly.
Awesome. Well, that already sounds like quite a list there, and I do agree the Bullet ID one is pretty cool. We've actually talked to them on the show before, so I'll have a link to that in the description if people want to learn more about that. Why would you choose to build on a decentralized network to kind of solve these problems? Could one of you go into that a little bit?
Sure. Yeah, I'll take a crack at it, and Lynn, feel free to fill in the gaps here. But the decentralized identity network, in this case, a blockchain or a distributed ledger, it acts as a verifiable data registry that brings that layer of cryptographic trust into a trusted digital ecosystem. They play a key role in mediating the creation and verification of key components of the credentials. So you have the identifiers, you have the keys, and other relevant data needed to verify where the credential came from, that the information within it hasn't been tampered with, the information needed to verify it. So it also is the place where a few key pieces of data are held. So that's where the DIDs are anchored, the decentralized identifiers. You also have the DID docs, other information related to the DID, as well as schemas. It's important to note that there's no personally identifiable information, or PII, that goes on the ledger. That's a big no-no in the decentralized identity world. What's on the ledger is the information needed to verify the authenticity of the credential, but it's not revealing necessarily what's in the credential. So if you build on a decentralized network, it enables that decentralized identity model, which reduces the centralization and trust issues that could arise for certain use cases. So for our customers and clients, they're often looking to use trusted digital ecosystems to exchange high value data, and a decentralized identity network brings the level of trust needed to do so. So it ensures the data integrity, also the transparency of the data is maintained.
Okay, sounds pretty good. Lynn, do you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, I'll just reemphasize some of the main things there. James covered most of it pretty well, but the big things that come to my mind are the cryptography, which provides for security and trust, and then the ability for a person to own their own credentials, right? They don't have to worry about it being stored in a big database somewhere that somebody can steal them from. Everyone gets to keep their own credentials on their own device.
So is there anything special about the Indicio network as compared to other decentralized networks? Why would you use one over the other?
Yeah, a couple of things I thought of here that come to mind right away here is that our networks, to get started on them, it's free. You can use our test net or our demo net to get set up and get going. It's important to try things out, and a lot of people really like to try before you buy, and that's a really big deal. And then our networks are professionally managed. We have people on staff that take care of all of the day-to-day, making sure things are running, and management and additional, expanding the networks and managing the network tools and keeping that all up and running.
Mm-hmm. I'd just like to add in here, one of the key differentiators is the professional staff and the professional management of the network. So again, yeah, we have Lynn and the team of experts who have deep experience working with Hyperledger Indy networks. They know how to solve problems. They know how to work live with customers to help them with any specific use cases that they need that involve the network. They're on call for demos if they need someone to call last minute. The team is here. So just having that assurance that there is a professional organization behind the monitoring and the maintaining of the network is really what our customers like.
That makes sense. I would want someone to call to make sure it's going to work as well. So awesome. So we're coming to the end of our time here, but if either of you have any insights into this, what's next for the network? Are there any big updates planned? Is there anything that we can kind of look forward to in terms of, new functionality, anything like that?
That is a timely question, Tim. As we're on the brink of an upgrade to the Hyperledger Indy networks that has been in the works for a long time now. We are finally upgrading the server that the nodes run on to Ubuntu 20.04. And that upgrade also includes a bunch of other cool stuff that comes with it. The biggest of which is the did Indy feature, did Indy method that has been already talked about by Insights a while back. But that feature makes it much easier for an agent to communicate with multiple networks that are in Hyperledger Indy based.
All right, sounds good. James, anything to add to that one, or?
Yeah, I just wanted to add that the networks are ready and available to use. Our team is here to talk anytime if an organization has questions or wants to start building. Would like to encourage people to take advantage of the free networks. It's yeah, there's no barrier to entry. Great place to get started and great place to get moving into production with your products or your use cases. So yeah, we're always happy to chat.
Awesome. Well, it looks like that is about our time here today. Thank you all so much for tuning in. If you like the content, please be sure to subscribe to the channel, and we'll continue to bring you some more news and interesting info from around the decentralized identity community. Thank you again to James and Lynn. If people want to learn anything more about these topics, is there anywhere that you would suggest they would look?
I'd suggest to subscribe to our newsletter. It has a lot of really good information weekly. Yeah, check out that. Check out the events that we have. We have a Indicio quarterly event coming up fairly soon. And we'll also, I believe, here in 2 weeks, be having a conversation with Phil Windley, who's been involved in the decentralized identity space for years now. And he'll have a really good insight into his experiences and also talking about his book. So we're looking forward to that. So yeah, check those out.
I think that pretty well covers it. We can, the other place you could look for more information about Hyperledger Indy and Indy Node would be on GitHub and the Hyperledger project there.